I am City no matter what. Those the words from Erling Haaland, who signs an incredible new contract until 2034. Hi there, welcome along to Transfer Talk as one of the Premier League's greatest strikers commits his future to the champions. This hour, we will hear from his manager, Pep Guardiola, live. Don't miss that at 12:30. Also this hour, will Arsenal sign a striker in this window? We're live to the club's training ground for their latest on their search. Could a mouth-watering sum of money tempt Mo Salah to move to the Saudi Pro League? We'll discuss his future. And Borussia Dortmund come back in for Marcus Rashford as they and AC Milan battle it out to try to sign the forward on loan. But first, of course, we've got to start with the huge news that Erling Haaland has committed his future to Manchester City until 2034. His previous contract was due to expire in the summer of 2027, but he's now put pen to paper on one of football's longest ever deals. It will see him turn 34 years old by the time it ends.
I'm super happy, I'm proud, and it's difficult to put words on because it is a big moment and everything, and who I am is I am happy, and that's the right words to use. So I'm super proud and happy, and I look forward to staying here for a long time. The hungriness and the support also I've been getting for the last couple of years from the board, from all the bosses, and from Pep. In the end, it wasn't an easy decision, and it's been like a dream these 2.5 years. And as I said, I'm really looking forward to what's next and for the future. When I spoke to Pep, the best manager in the world, it's also a great thing to speak with him and to train and to play under him every single day, to meet him, to get his input on me and how to become a better footballer and everything, and to develop even more. You had to be at your best and to deliver at your best. That's also what you have to do here, because you come here, people expect you to win trophies, and that's why you're here for.
So afternoon, everyone. Afternoon to Molly Stevens, to Dan Bardell and to Kwaku Afari as well. Let's get straight into the Haaland reaction then. We had to completely rip up our running order for Good Morning Transfers because this is mega news, isn't it? Is it the news that Manchester City fans were all waiting for? Is it even better news than a new signing in some ways?
In some aspects. I don't know if it's the news that Man City fans are waiting for. Caught a load of people by surprise in terms of this contract extension for Erling Haaland, but it will definitely satisfy and satiate Man City fans who've been a bit worried this season in terms of their team's form. He's one of the most integral pieces to Pep Guardiola's system, which is interesting because when he first joined from Borussia Dortmund in 2022, people were asking, is he going to assimilate? Is he going to fit into what Pep Guardiola wants to do in terms of playing football? In his first season, he scored 36 league goals in 35 games. Last season was an off-season for him. He scored 27 league goals in 31 games.
Rubbish.
This season, apparently he's off it. He's already scored 16 league goals, one more than Alexander Isak. So he is one of the greatest goal scorers that we have ever seen in the Premier League. I expect that to continue. How Man City build around him is the next step, because now he's committed to his long-term future. It's about how you utilise the talent, like you said at the beginning, one of the greatest goal scorers this country's ever seen.
Yeah. How significant, Dan, is the fact that we are hearing that there's no release clauses anymore? Those have been taken out of the new contract.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. It's probably my biggest takeaway from the contract, despite the fact it's 9.5 years. The biggest takeaway is that those clauses are no longer there. So there's always been noise around Haaland, and his father spoke previously about wanting to play in different countries and play in all the top European leagues. If he sees out this contract, takes him to 34. Yeah, the chance of that happening are very, very slim. And you can see now with the images, all the PR around it, Manchester City have done a brilliant job. And last January transfer window was very, very quiet. But with potential incomings, the Haaland contract news, this is very much looking like it could be Manchester City's window. And Kwaku said there 27 goals last season and called it an off season. You've never hear any other striker described as having an off season, having scored 27 goals. And he's here to stay. He's here for a long time, and I imagine he's going to break all kinds of records.
Well, it's interesting you've said that, because actually Alan Shearer has already tweeted. He, of course, holds the record for Premier League goals. 260 he's got. Congratulations, Erling Haaland. 9.5 years. Surely shouldn't take you that long. Great stuff from Alan Shearer. But if you think about it, so he's got 9.5 years. Shearer's got 260. He's got 179. So with my basic maths, that's 182, Molly, pretty much in 10 years. So he needs to get about 18 a year. That's very doable for him, isn't it?
Light work for Erling Haaland, I think. Yeah, Alan Shearer, fair play to him. He's had the record for some time, hasn't he? Yeah. But I think Erling Haaland's there for the taking now. And yeah, what a player, what a signing, what a window for Manchester City this could be. Unheard of, unprecedented. No one really expected this much of a rebuild and so much forward planning for the future. But Erling Haaland definitely is the future, isn't he, for Manchester City by the looks of things?
Other clubs had a chance as well, didn't they? You think back to Manchester United under Solskjaer, Haaland earlier on in his career before Dortmund, maybe Premier League club could have gone and got him. There'll be so much frustration amongst the ranks of those teams now because they know that Haaland's going to be at Manchester City for a long time. And we see how hard it is to get genuine goal scorers in this market at the moment now as well. So to have Haaland, in fact, they got him for around £50 million as well.
It's a snip.
We saw. Look at the numbers there. They're just eye-watering. He's a player that it almost beggars belief in modern football. When you're seeing these players, and Daniel Sturridge spoke about it on Monday Night Football last season about how players want to be wide men or forwards want to be wide men as opposed to strikers. He's a fully fledged number 9, and those numbers reflect it. 111 goals in 126 games. It's absolutely incredible. And when he joined Man City, it was a huge coup for the Premier League. It was the first time in a long time that a bona fide, fully fledged superstar had joined the Premier League. And he's lived up to expectations. There was a number of doubts, but he's a player that can go on to break whatever records he wants because he's so good. It's whether Man City can then match those expectations, and I think that's part of the negotiations and part of the talks. Will Man City go again and go again and go again to continue to win trophies at the rate they previously have?
You know, it could be a pretty good day for Manchester City because aside from that huge news, they are also the most active club in the market at the moment. They have reached a verbal agreement with Eintracht Frankfurt for the forward Omar Marmoush. Sounds very close now, Dan. Obviously, the Haaland news is massive. That's going to dominate the day. But they do need freshening up as well, don't they? There's no doubt about that this season. Would this be the statement signing that Manchester City have been looking for to really galvanise them for the second half of the season?
Well, Marmoush is currently the best player in the Bundesliga. He's bringing up incredible numbers. I think he's scored 15 goals in 17 appearances so far this season. Maybe a bit of a late developer, but someone who's taken the league by storm this season. And Frankfurt are having a really, really good season at the moment. I think it's the Julian Alvarez replacement that they didn't get in the summer. Pep's spoken of his regret of maybe not reinforcing in the summer. Now they didn't do too much business in the summer window. I think personally what this shows, the fact that they're prepared to go and spend this money now and bed someone in now, is that not necessarily written off the season because obviously, you know, they're in the Champions League, they're still in multiple competitions, but the Premier League is a big ask at this point. I think if they were obviously doing well, I don't think they make as many signings as potentially they're going to do in January, but I think this is almost the start of the rebuild. They're tying Haaland down. He's going to be the poster boy. He's going to be the face of Manchester City for the next 10 years. They've got a lot of players coming towards the end, the players that will probably depart, who've been a big part of the club over the next 12 to 18 months. Marmoush comes in as a forward player, a versatile forward player. I think he's the first part of the new jigsaw that Pep's going to build.
Yeah, you mentioned the versatility there, and you also mentioned Julian Alvarez. He's actually a slightly different player, isn't he, Molly? He can pretty much play anywhere in the front line. He can play on the left, he can play on the right. Number 10, you can play him as a striker. 15 goals, but he's also got 9 assists. He's a big creator as well. What position do you expect him to be used in the most by Manchester City?
Well, I mean, as you say, he's a multifunctional forward, isn't he? So that versatility, money can't buy, as we've talked about in this window so far already. I mean, that's extraordinary. I mean, he could occupy maybe a wider role as well. I know they've got Doku and Savinho there at the moment, but he could definitely occupy one of those roles. I mean, next to De Bruyne potentially, whilst De Bruyne is still there. 2-8's maybe an option for Pep Guardiola with Marmoush, but he's tearing it up in the
attacking,
Bundesliga.
wouldn't it?
The thing is, he's tearing it up in the Bundesliga, but as a forward right now.
Yeah.
Predominantly, you know, that multifunctional line might not be something that he's used to, but we're talking about Haaland. Just imagine Omar Marmoush playing off Haaland. Yeah. It's going to be very exciting times, I think, for Manchester City.
Not for the defenders that are facing them.
No.
Now, Dan, this is your moment, mate. Last night you piped up on the WhatsApp group and you say, Marmoush, you know, let's talk about the best signings from the Bundesliga. And when we actually thought about it, or when you thought about it, actually, there have been loads of amazing signings that have come from the Bundesliga to the Premier League.
Well, to be honest, there was a lot more than I thought there was going to be when I made the suggestion, and I'm going to take some heat because I've obviously had to leave some players out here, and I didn't want to focus too heavily on one club. Obviously, we want to share the love on this channel, so I have chose players mainly from different teams that influenced my decision. First one, the man of the moment, the man of the day, Haaland. I mean, what a day for the guy. Signed a new contract that seems like he's going to be for the rest of his life, and he's made my top 5 Bundesliga signing. So an absolutely incredible day for Haaland. Kevin De Bruyne had to be in there. Obviously had a little bit of a failed spell at Chelsea, then went to Germany and came to Manchester City, and has been one of the best midfielders that the Premier League has ever seen. He makes my top 5. Vincent Kompany speaks for itself. Leader, won the multiple Premier Leagues with Manchester City. Kind of the first part of the jigsaw at that time of rebuilding Manchester City and turning them into what they are today. No idea why he's wearing the number 10 shirt on that picture, but we move on. And Bobby Firmino for Liverpool fans still sing about him today. Again, a big part of changing Liverpool under Klopp, playing as a false 9, part of that famous front 3. One of my favourite players in Premier League history. I had to put him in. And then I was torn here on my last one because I could have gone for Sane, I could have gone for Gundogan, Ballack, Aubameyang, Klinsmann, but I went for Son. Probably the second best player for Spurs in the Premier League era. Still there now. Still the captain. Kwaku's shaking his head.
I am shaking.
You can't win. Are you always going to leave someone out and upset someone? I've upset Kwaku.
Again, you might say I'm biased. I think it's sacrilege to not have Michael Ballack on that list.
Yeah.
Michael Ballack signed for Chelsea from Bayern Munich in 2006, helped Chelsea win the double in 2010. An absolutely incredible footballer, a martial midfielder, excellent next to Michael Essien and Frank Lampard. And for me, I love Heung-min Son. I think he's done incredible things at Spurs. He's probably the second greatest Premier League player after Harry Kane. But Michael Ballack is an amazing footballer that I think deserves to be on your list, Dan.
The Chelsea fan thinks I should have put a Chelsea player in over a Spurs player. So the Spurs fans will think I should put the Spurs player in.
I thought she'd been a Aubameyang and Ozil person.
There we go.
just joking, actually. Right. The latest name to enter the frame for Manchester City is the Juventus left-back, Andrea Cambiasso. It's understood the club are at a very early stage of exploring the 24-year-old as an option. Sky Italy believe Juventus currently value Cambiasso at around £67 million, and they are not looking to sell him this month. We're also awaiting news on Abdulkadir Husanov and Vitor Heish's potential moves to the club, which could be imminent. We will hear live from the Manchester City head coach Pep Guardiola in his press conference at 12:30. Lots for him to talk about. It's going to be fascinating. Make sure you stay tuned. Right, we're going to get to Arsenal now because they could do with a striker themselves. Let's find out how their search is going. We can speak to James Savundra. Hello, James. It's a priority in this window now, isn't it? Are they any closer to signing that striker?
Yeah, good afternoon, Matt. Mikel Arteta admitted that they're actively looking for a striker in this window. That accelerated, of course, by the long-term injuries suffered to Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Jesus. Kai Havertz currently the only forward option that Arteta has at his disposal. One man who it doesn't look like it's going to be in January is Benjamin Šeško. Now, the 21-year-old from RB Leipzig has been linked with a number of Premier League clubs, including Arsenal, over a long period of time and in this transfer window. We've spoken to his agent and he's shot down any real suggestions of him moving anywhere outside the Bundesliga in this transfer window. He says, if you ask me if Šeško will move in January, I can only say Šeško is happy with his development in RB Leipzig at the moment, and he's an RB Leipzig player with a long-term contract. We respect that. So it looks like Šeško may not be one here at Arsenal in this transfer window, potentially one for the summer. And in the summer, it looks likely that Arsenal will confirm the signing of Martin Zubimendi. They're closing in on a deal with Real Sociedad. He's got a release clause around £51 million. You remember in the summer, he had the opportunity to join Arne Slot's Liverpool. He turned down that opportunity, but it looks like Zubimendi will link up with Mikel Merino and Martin Ødegaard, two former Real Sociedad midfielders. It looks like that has been a real great relationship Arsenal have built with Real Sociedad, and they're very close to signing Martin Zubimendi. That's one for the future. They need a striker in now. We'll hear from Mikel Arteta at his pre-match news conference at 1 p.m. this afternoon, and we'll bring that to you live on Sky Sports News.
Great stuff. Cheers, James. Right, let's get from the red half of North London to the white half, and from one James to another, because Tottenham are also searching for a forward. James Cole is at their training ground ahead of speaking to Ange Postecoglou later. Hello, James. It's been a tough week, hasn't it, for Spurs? A trip to Everton is next. Any news on incomings?
No, it doesn't appear that Tottenham are close to signing anyone. Ange Postecoglou said last week he'd like to bring in a forward, someone who could play left, centre or on the right, give Dominic Solanke a bit of support and maybe a break, but it doesn't look like that's materialising as at the moment. One of their targets, Randall Kolo Muani, the PSG player, is close to signing for Juventus, so it looks like Tottenham have missed out on him. They'd also like to sign a defender. 3 of their starting back 4 are currently out and aren't going to return until February. They've got a lot of injury problems here at Spurs, so we'll get the latest from Postecoglou on that, but at the moment there's nothing materialising as far as we know. Now, the defeat to Arsenal leaves Tottenham 14 points now off the top 4. It's 1 win in 9 for them. They're now closer to the relegation places than they are European places. They've lost 11 games this season, and the only teams who've lost more than 11 in the Premier League this season are the bottom 3. So it's a worrying trend. I think what will worry Tottenham fans the most is the fact that the 2 best players against Arsenal in midweek were their 2 18-year-olds, Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall, while their more experienced players, Son, Kulusevski, Maddison, failed to make an impact. And after the game, Postecoglou said that the performance was unacceptable, that they were too passive. So you wonder why they were too passive. Is it a mindset or is it a physical thing because they're so tired due to the injuries? He can't give the more experienced players a break. So we'll get into Postecoglou on that, but they really desperately need a win at Goodison on Saturday. They've not won there in 7 attempts, and if they don't, there's a danger here at Spurs. Yes, they're in 3 cup competitions, but there's a danger in the league that they start sleepwalking themselves into a relegation battle. We'll hear from the Tottenham boss at 1 o'clock.
Thank you very much, James. Right, stay with us. Lots to come. We're going to have the latest on Liverpool and Mohamed Salah. There is still interest in him from Saudi Arabia. And, of course, we'll be hearing live from Pep Guardiola. Lots to discuss in terms of what he's going to say, whether Omar Marmoush might be imminent, and, of course, reaction to that big new contract for Erling Haaland. Welcome back to Transfer Talk. We're going to talk Liverpool and Mo Salah now, because the links with Saudi Arabia and Mo Salah had gone relatively quiet since that £150 million bid from Al Ittihad was rejected in August. But we now know that Al Hilal are ready to offer him a lucrative contract if he wants to leave Europe and play in Saudi Arabia. Interesting this, isn't it, Dan? Because, as I mentioned there, we hardly mentioned the Saudi Arabian clubs in the first half of this transfer window. Could that destabilise things further for Liverpool if another big Saudi offer comes in for Salah?
I don't think so. I think if they were to receive any offer now when they're in the position that they're in, they're not going to entertain it, because they're not going to want to lose anyone from now until the end of the season. And whatever the money, I think that's absolutely the right call. From Salah's perspective, I think he knows he can make that kind of move whenever. He's still at the peak of his powers. I think I get the impression he'd want to stay at the highest level in Europe for another couple of years and then make that move. But he knows himself he can make that move whenever he wants to, and I don't think the salary package is going to be too different. On the destabilisation, we were talking earlier, weren't we? And we said Arne Slot's just handled everything so well. He's been a magnificent appointment and been magnificent for the Premier League and absolutely brilliant for Liverpool. He does everything with a minimum of fuss. He answers questions with a minimum of fuss. He inserts humour into every situation. I think he's made this contract situation with these three players a lot more easy than it should have been for Liverpool. And I really admire him and admire what he's done so far this season.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. And it's interesting to see what Klopp said the other day. He's like, thank God I'm not in that position, because most managers wouldn't want to be in that position at all, would they? In terms of the three big players, Van Dijk, Salah and Trent, none of them have really said anything at the moment. Would it help if at one point soon one of those three players comes out and says something either way, whether they're staying or leaving, or would that cause more problems? Say if a player comes out and says, right, I'm going at the end of the year, I've signed a contract with whoever it is, but tells the fans.
Yeah, it goes back to Dan's point, actually, because, as you say, we were speaking about it earlier on, it would help the manager more than anyone else right now, because he's having to field so many questions. But Mo Salah has been vocal, hasn't he, already in the last couple of weeks about the fact that, he's not too sure of his contract situation and that he will be there for this season, but after that he's off. So that's definitely been a thing that's happened already, that they have spoken about it. It's a bit betwixt and between for me, actually, because I think in one breath it would be far easier to know exactly where they're going, put everyone's minds at ease, focus on the title, everyone full steam ahead behind the team to make sure they win that title at the end of the season. But at the same time, actually, if they're there until the summer anyway, why should they have to say anything whilst they're still assessing their options, while Liverpool are still trying to convince them to stay ultimately? Nothing has been confirmed right now, and therefore, until anything is confirmed, you can't really expect them to confirm either way. This is football at the end of the day, and things change so frequently. Yeah, clarity would be great for everyone concerned, but I don't think it's quite as easy as that right now.
Yeah, well, you've got to say, it's not really causing too many problems at the moment for Liverpool, is it? Top of the league, of course. Now, stay with us. Live next, it'll be Pep Guardiola.
have, yeah.
Welcome back to Transfer Talk. Let's cross live now to Pep Guardiola.
But it's an exceptional news for all of us, for the club. So when one player decides to sign this type of contract never had done before, is because he want to show how desperate want to be here. Otherwise, all the agents and players always say, nah, sign 1 or 2 or 3 year contract and next one. Because 10 years, many things can happen. And that means a proof of confidence and trust for that club.
Do you think he can improve? He's done a lot already. Can he improve? Can he get better as a player in the course of the contract?
The contract itself will not make improving. It's himself who he desire. Of course can improve. All of us, we can improve.
Just on another striker as well, you're going to face this weekend, Liam Delap, who you know well, obviously. Do you expect him to do as well as he has done so far for Ipswich in the Premier League?
He's doing really well. So many players come up for this academy. They are settled perfectly in the Premier League. When he was here, always we thought he's a typical striker, you know, for the Premier League, and he's doing really well. And we are happy for him.
Hi, Pep. You've mentioned about the length of contract. It is a big show of faith by Erling, given we obviously know about the charges and we know what people are saying that might happen to the club if that goes wrong. That is a big statement by Erling and everybody to commit to something when we know.
Absolutely, is what I said. Is the trust for the club to Erling, like, because you never know what can happen in the next year. So, but the club knows perfectly how professional it is. His commitment in every single game and every single day to show his talent, and of course for him, because you know in 10 years, man, wow, we never know what's going to happen. It's a long time, and always in the short careers, always you have to say, okay, stay, we see what happened, and he proved what he wanted, and the trust, I said before, with the trust with the club.
You're a manager. It's your job to get more out of players. What can he improve on?
And many things. So he's, of course, the club and the team, myself as a manager, we have to create environment, like create a lot of moments that he can intervene in when he is unstoppable. Because there is the best. And we have to, of course, in the relation, and more than that, understanding the game, in general, what happened during the game, what is the decisions you have to take, you have to make. So I think this is, but I think he's so young, still young, and I'm pretty sure with a mature that playing games and games and games, it's going to happen naturally.
Pep, obviously you work with Erling Haaland every day. What motivates him? Is it trophies? Is it personally to get better? Is it milestones like goals? I mean, what do you see?
I don't know. I didn't speak to him about what is your motivation. I think it's winning the next game. His motivation, score goals. I know he helped us a lot being there and score goals. But yeah, I don't have the feeling that he's a guy with the contract to say, okay, now I have this, I'm going to take a nap. I don't think it's not going to happen. I think he loves, to play, and is a huge competitor. And but in the same time, the good moments and the bad moments have the ability to get rid of immediately. His mindset is really good to forget what happened in the good, in the bad, and thinking in the next.
You also have been a player, and now you're a long-time manager here. Have you ever known of a player commit their future to a club for anything like this length, commit of time?
Have you seen a player to extend 10 years contract?
What has to go into a player's thinking? Because you've been a player too, you've been in a dressing room.
I think he came from Norway. I think even maybe the weather here is better than he was born, and he settled perfectly. I think what happened is that he loves the club, the people he's around. He loves the Premier League. He loves to be here with his wife, and now his father. So I think he visualized there is no better place that I could be right now in the next 10 years, I would say, and that's why he and his family decide to do this step.
You weren't tempted by 10 years yourself when you extended earlier in the season?
Sorry?
You weren't tempted by 10 years extension yourself?
Well, next season now we do. If they still am here, we'll do 10 years. So he has to beat me.
Hi, Pep. Is Erling fit for Sunday? Because we saw him go down on his haunches a bit during the second half at Brentford. Just wondered if he's fit to start.
We'll see. Yesterday was recovery. Yesterday was day off. So now going to training, we'll see. Because some players, they finish with some problems, like every game, and we'll see.
And just one on Phil Foden, he scored twice in midweek. Obviously, he struggled a little bit with fitness and form and illness this season. How close are City fans now to seeing him back to his very best?
It's not bad what he is doing, I would say, lately. And feel his mood when he smiles and he arrives and talks and whatever, we have to be calm. And in the first part of the year was a little bit more concerned, some niggles, was a little bit more concerned about what happened in my physical condition. He was a little bit more down. Apart from many, still is a young player, but already have experienced many things in many years, and sometimes you need to breathe and need to, to come back. And as much as, like I said, in this mood that they happened in the last 3 weeks, 1 month, his natural talent will do the rest.
Hi, Pep. You always say when it comes to contract negotiations with players and transfers that you leave it to Cheeky. What was your reaction when he told you that Erling was going to sign for 10 years?
I said, can you repeat? And he said to me, I said, sure? I said, yes. So, good news. That means a lot.
I know there's been no transfers announced yet, but there are obviously work going on in the background at the moment. Players going in for medicals, etc. You've always said that you've been really appreciative of the support that the board's given you when you've been in tough times. Is that again another show that they are still backing you in this position?
They have shown it. They have shown it not because they listen. When the players come, it's not because I decide. So it's the club bring the players here. Being with his mates, with this manager or in other ones, is for a process for the club. The club has to decide, we have to change some players or the manager or whatever. These players are able to do it, and that's why they decide. So the trust always have been there, and I think the last 2 months, month and a half, in other environment, I would not be here. So that's for sure. So always have been there.
Hi, Pep. A normal contract extension probably would be important to that one individual player, but there wouldn't be any kind of wider impact. But because it's Erling, because of his status in world football, the length of the deal, is it the kind of news that has an impact on the rest of the dressing room, that players who maybe are looking to come here, because there has been a little bit of uncertainty? Do you think it's the kind of thing that people look at and think
it helps? It helps for sure. Now is the club, myself and everyone have to, I said before to Simon, I have to make the right environment to him, to express every game, every 3 days, every week, the best of him. So with the players, I have to deliver the actions, With Kevin in his prime, Erling will be better. It will make a finished business in these actions, And that is what we need. And I'm pretty sure, knowing the club, it's going to happen. Sooner or later, it's going to happen.
Hi, Pep. Erling said he had a chat with you before sort of deciding on his contract. Did you give him any advice beforehand?
Before,
when he was making his decision to sign the contract?
I don't remember. I think he chatted with me when it already was done. And after that, and we congratulate each other, and because he's making me a better manager, a better staff, that's for sure. He's helping me. Yeah, right.
And the 10-year contract, was that the club's idea or Erling's idea? How did it come to that figure?
Sorry?
How was it decided that it was 10 years? It's such a big contract and you don't see them before. Was it the club or Erling who decided that?
Who decided? Yeah. I think both. So if the club will not be, I think, agreed to offer this type of deal, he will not do it. If Erling is not completely pretty sure that I will live my 10 years, my life, until 34 years old, going to finish at 34 in this club, he will not sign. So nobody, I think both parts are happy, and they did it.
So moving on from who decided, why is it so long from the club's point of view? Because it is a long contract. Why?
I don't know. When Erling go to the press conference, I think.
But you must know from the club's point of view why Cheeky and Ferran or whoever decided that 10 years. For example, the Mbappe deal, he goes to Real Madrid for free. Was it maybe to protect the value of this player? You don't want to see him walking away for free in his previous contract.
So I don't know the
expires.
reason. I don't know, and I didn't ask. So because I think what happened in this kind of situation, because he feel it. He feels that is the best, for me, for my career, playing in this club. It's no more difficult than that. And of course, he's a special player. To find a player like Erling is so difficult to find strikers in that level. Once we have it, why don't make the effort to keep him? And the club make, I'm pretty sure, the huge effort to have him, and they decide.
That's what I was going to ask. I'm not saying he's as good as Messi, but in this generation, is he almost like the Lionel Messi?
No, nobody's like Messi.
Wait, for this generation, is he almost, like you're saying, a phenomenon?
It's a different type. It's a different type of play. Of course, it's the level of numbers, the score goals, is that level. But anyone who is like Leo. Leo have been like Cristiano, I would say. Both have been 14, 15 years, scoring a man of goals every season, arriving the last stages, and everyone. So Erling is a different type of player. Everybody knows it. But in terms of numbers, score goals, they are similar. Even I don't know in that age Erling, has right now. Leo or Cristiano how many goals scores, but it doesn't matter. All three, for example, what I said, and maybe Mbappe as well, they have an unbelievable number. So all of them are top. But Leo can play in different positions and can produce many things for his mates. So Leo is incomparable, and I think Cristiano have been there so close.
Just last one in the middle, please, for the embargo.
Hi, Pep.
Right, OK, we're going to come out of that, but that was very interesting, wasn't it, from Pep Guardiola. I should just say, just to add a bit extra, that Erling Haaland is now expected to become the highest earner at the club. And in terms of how much he's earning, this is we're hearing an uptick on what his previous salary was, which was around about £400,000 a week. So a little bit more than that. However, a lot of the questions there were involved on the length of the contract, weren't they? And actually, Pep Guardiola almost seemed as surprised as everyone else as to the length of it. When he was asked his reaction when Chiqui Begiristain told him the length of it, he said, "You what?" Basically, he said, "Can you repeat?" is what he said. And he said himself, Pep, that a lot can change within 10 years. That's going to take a lot of the headlines here, isn't it? Why do you think, and some of the journalists, they were trying to get at that, why do you think it's such a long contract?
It was fair questions from the journalists, because when we've seen football go in different directions, right? We've seen Kylian Mbappe go to Real Madrid on a free. We've seen Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold run their contracts down to the final year. If you do that as a player, you gain leverage. If you back your ability, you gain leverage in terms of deciding your future. What Erling Haaland's done there to City has actually done them a massive favour. Because if situations do change over the next 10 years, they're still going to recoup a massive fee for one of the biggest names in football. We saw Cole Palmer sign a similar length contract at Chelsea. And so I guess Guardiola has that reaction because it's almost like Haaland's done the club a favour in signing that long contract. And it's very much a partnership, right? We've all seen the pictures of Erling Haaland in the Man City shirt as a kid. His dad played for the club as well. So I think he very much feels like the club is his club. But in terms of the situation over the next decade, football moves very quickly. Man City, post-Guardiola, if he does see out his contract in the next couple of years, might be a very different prospect. And Erling Haaland might find himself in a position where he might look elsewhere. But if that is the case, Man City will recoup a massive fee, one of the biggest players in football.
Just quickly, it's kind of the pressure period now, the 2.5-year point into a 5-year deal is where clubs usually negotiate a contract so that they don't leave themselves vulnerable. So credit to Manchester City for doing that, because suddenly you get to the summer and it's 2 years left. People start talking about, he might say out his contract, he might want to go on a free at the end of it. It is just that duration that's a surprise. I don't think anyone could have foreseen that at all.
And the clause has been taken out as well. Again, he's given away leverage in that situation. He's committed his long-term future to Man City, so he's very much there for the long haul. He's sees all the records. He's a man who's very aware of Alan Shearer's 260 goals in the Premier League. He's currently on 79. We all believe that if he stays here for the duration of the contract, he will get to that number. And so this is Erling Haaland committing his long-term future to a club that he's done very well at.
Yeah, both the club and Haaland himself obviously showing real faith in each other there. He is staying, Erling Haaland. How about Marcus Rashford? Where will he be playing his football come the end of the window? We'll discuss his options next. Welcome back to Transfer Talk. Let's get to Marcus Rashford. Despite looking to be out of the running to sign him, Borussia Dortmund are now pushing to make a move. Sky Germany understands that internal talks were held and the club have made the decision to pursue him on loan. AC Milan are also actively trying to secure a deal themselves. We've spoken, haven't we, Dan, about AC Milan and Barcelona in the last couple of weeks, about how stacked they are in Rashford's favoured position on the left and up front, to be fair, as well. How about Borussia Dortmund? Is this an easier 11 to break into for him?
Possibly squad depth-wise, yes, but in his preferred position, and look, I get that every club has to have a squad and have players to choose from. Jamie Gittins is playing there at the moment and playing very well. Whilst we've been on air, interestingly, the Athletic are reporting that Bayern Munich hold an interest in Gittins, yet another player maybe that will make the move from Dortmund to Bayern Munich. We've seen that many times before. For Rashford and Manchester United, I think they both need to distance themselves from each other. I think it's clear that Rashford needs a fresh environment. Me personally, I think at the peak of his career, which is where he's at now, I think being away from England and being away from the Premier League would be a really positive thing for him. And we've seen other players go to Dortmund and flourish. Dortmund are going really well in the Champions League, got a really good chance of qualifying automatically for the knockouts. Not going so well in the Bundesliga. So from speaking to, I spoke to Kevin Hatchard earlier actually, he kind of said that Dortmund just needs something right now, a good news story, and he feels that Marcus Rashford could be that good news story. But there's still, even going there, still barriers to getting in the team. So it's an interesting one over the next few weeks. But I do really hope that Rashford moves somewhere because I want to go and see him flourish somewhere.
Well, he may well do. And there's a lot of interest in him, Molly. We've had AC Milan, Juve initially. There was a bit of interest. Possibly Barcelona and Dortmund have now revived their interest. These are big clubs. Are we surprised that so many big clubs are in for him, or not really?
I'm not surprised at all, to be honest. Yes, OK, you know, form hasn't been Marcus Rashford's strong point over the last maybe 2 years or so, but there's no doubt he's a 27-year-old man. You know, there's still plenty of his career left. Obviously, he's got a bit of a brand that's coming with him as well that I'm sure Dortmund would quite fancy. But aside from that, from a footballing perspective purely, his speed, his skill and his goal-scoring ability is still going to be, you know, very much there, isn't it? It's still within the player, and I appreciate he's dropped off the radar, but I think that player is still very much in there. A lot of people talk about that 22-23 season and how many goals he scored then, 17 goals in 35 Premier League appearances. That was only 2 seasons ago. There's still time, and as we always talk about with players and clubs, it is so important that he feels the love. If he gets that arm around him at Dortmund, like we've seen with Jadon Sancho, and how that's made him into such, you know, much more confident player within himself, he's flourishing at Dortmund, and I think that clearly players talk.
Yeah,
that could be massive for him.
Really good point, that, isn't it? Is that something that gives Dortmund the edge, maybe, on some of the other competitors? He can look at the examples of Bellingham, Sancho, players who've gone there, English players, and they've flourished immediately. They've got a great record of nurturing English talent there.
They have. They've got an incredible record when it comes to young English players. But then you look at the other contender in this, AC Milan, and you look at young British players who are over there doing quite well. You think about Fikayo Tomori, you think about Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who's not that young anymore. You think about Tammy Abraham, who's there on loan. So he's got options, Marcus Rashford, as he should. He's a player that has delivered previously, like you touched on, Molly. 22-23 seasons only 2 years ago, and he led Manchester United to a third-place finish in the Premier League. They won the League Cup. They got to the final of the FA Cup. It was a very good season for him, playing in a multitude of positions, not just on the left, but also down the middle, which will be very attractive to clubs who are pursuing him. The fact that he is multifaceted. Obviously, he's got his preferred position on the left, but he's a player that still has so much to offer. It's just not at Manchester United, and he's made that clear. The club have made that clear with their actions. He wasn't in the matchday squad for the game against Southampton yesterday. So a new start, a fresh start at a club like Borussia Dortmund could definitely reignite his career.
All right, let's move on to West Ham then, because they're focused on signing a new striker in this window. The list grows, actually, of potential targets. Evan Ferguson, John Duran, Rodrigo Muniz, Tayo Awoniyi at Nottingham Forest, Nice's Evan Gesson and RB Leipzig's Andre Silva are all on their target list. Kwaku, Bowen is back in training, but Füllkrug is a fairly long-term absentee. Antonio certainly is, and he's going to be 35 soon anyway. Would it make sense to look for a long-term option rather than a short-term one here?
Definitely. If you think about Füllkrug before the injury, our colleague in Germany, Florian Pettenberg, was reporting that he was of interest to clubs in Germany. So I don't foresee his long-term future being at West Ham, and he is in his 30s as well. Think about the injuries, like you mentioned, to Jarrett Bowen and to some of the key players up top. Mikel Antonio, by the time he returns, is going to be 35 years old. It's imperative for West Ham to look for a long-term option. They found it difficult to find that striker, that person who could put the ball in the back of the net regularly, but this should be their priority in this window for sure.
Dan, who do you think would be the most realistic target of those names I've mentioned?
I think Evan Ferguson, someone that Potter's worked with before, someone as a short-term option so they can re-evaluate what they're looking for a long-term forward. In the summer, I think there'd be an element of trust from Brighton with Potter, still good relationship between the two. Ferguson needs to play games. West Ham need a striker. It's a match made in short-term heaven.
Go along with that?
I would, yeah. I think, 20 years old under Graham Potter, a lifetime ahead of him potentially at West Ham, been hampered with injury previously, now's his time to shine. He was billed as one of the best strikers in the league at one point, up-and-coming strikers, so no doubt.
Yeah, and Fulham might want to hold on to Muniz, Forest might want to hold on to Awoniyi, we just don't know. Guys, thank you very much. Good fun today, wasn't it? A lot of big breaking news for us, wasn't there? Including the news that Erling Haaland, of course, has signed a 10-year contract. Coming up, though, we'll be hearing from a lot of managers live.